Hello and welcome to the Philosophical Weightlifting YouTube channel. My name is Joshua Gibson. I am a weightlifting coach and science enthusiast. I will be analyzing the technique of the medalists at the European Championships in the 81 kilo weight class. So to start, we have Ritvars Suharevs, who placed 5th in the snatch and 5th in the clean and jerk, but still managed to eke out a bronze medal in the total. He didn't quite have his sharpest day, especially considering the fact that he only went 2 for 6. So he heads out for his opener at 157 kilos, and everything just looked a little off, right? So he caught the weights and had to chase them forward. This was kind of the story in the snatch and in the clean and jerk. Walks over to the chalk bowl, which is inconveniently placed at the opposite end of the competition platform. So he competes for Latvia and is very explosive, very fast. Yep, and you can see something's just a little off, right? The weight sits a little forward, gets a little out of position. And he's not going to be able to come back and make a correction with that. Just quickly looking at it, a few things to note. With the start position, you see the hip crease is in line with the top of the knee. The shoulders are directly on top of or in front of the bar. That's pretty conventional, pretty standard. Once he gets to the knees have cleared the way of the bar. Shins are relatively vertical, shoulders are in front of the bar. Feet are flat, and then he transitions under. Gets to a decent power position. He's a little open. His weight's a little forward in his foot. So maybe that's why when he extended, the bar stayed forward. And then he has that patented jump with the feet. And then the land. So the bar just sat a little forward and then receive. And he had to run and chase it. Look of disappointment. And then for Germany is Nico Müller. He's coming up to take his third attempt snatch at 158 kilos, a lift that ended up earning him the bronze medal in the snatch. The thing about the German weightlifting team is that they all have great technique. They're very efficient. They move very well. It's very classic. And I think the training supports that. They do a lot of volume. They probably do a lot of medium intensity lifts. A lot of lifts where they can work on and refine their movement. Nothing that's so heavy that it forces them to really compromise what they're doing. I mean, it was effortless. So the 157, he missed in front, arm bobbled, but that looked really, really well executed. So looking at this lift a little more in detail, similar start position mechanics. Top of the hip is in line with the top of the knee. Shoulders are on top of or in front of the bar. The thing to note here is that through the transition, he tends to really get far back in his heels, and you can actually see his toes start to peel up off of the ground. His shoulders stay forward enough that he can maintain balance and he doesn't end up jumping back, but that's something that's different between him and Ritvars Suharevs. At the power position, his shoulders are slightly behind the bar, feet are relatively flat, and then he extends up, gives a really nice extension and push into the bar, pulls straight down underneath the barbell and secures it overhead in a very strong position. An excellent lift by Nico Müller. So we're going to look at Karlos Nassar, who ended up taking second place in the snatch with 163 kilos. Now again, this kid is 16 years old. He's from Bulgaria. He's been just incredibly advancing himself as a technician and then also as a weightlifter, adding 10 and 20 kilos onto his snatch, in a year or two. He has very unique technique. We'll break this down a little bit more, given how divergent it is from Nino Pizzolato, who took gold in the snatch. Very smooth lift, very secure overhead, almost placed it in the perfect position besides a step or two forward. Really excited. You can tell how pleased he is with himself to be able to make that. So this is a very telling angle of the technique differences. So if you watch, he tends to really extend his knees. He gets really horizontal with his torso. You can see his chest is almost flush with the ground, and his hips are in line with his shoulders. His knees clear back out of the way, his shins get vertical. And then the thing to really notice is the transition starts around the kneecap. So when he gets around level with the kneecap, he starts to transition under the bar. He gets a very dramatic shift under, And the idea is that when you can stretch a muscle quickly, it contracts more aggressively. So he really stretches the hips and the hamstrings. And then as he forcefully flexes his knees under the barbell, he's stretching the quads so that he can get a more forceful extension. He's a bit behind the bar, a bit forward on his foot at the finish. And he goes straight up with it and secures it overhead in a very comfortable, very strong position. Now we will be looking at the gold medalist in the snatch, Nino Pizzolato. His third attempt is 164 kilograms. Nino is a very explosive, aggressive lifter. It's great to watch. Now the differences here are really seen around knee level, where Nino tends to keep extending. Nassar tends to flex under the barbell. Now it's hard to see from any of the given angles, but we'll try to do our best. So definitely a different start from Ritvars Suharevs and Nico Müller. His hips are higher. His shoulders are a little closer to the ground, right? He doesn't have such a vertical posture. And then you can see as he breaks, he starts to maintain a constant position when the bar starts to get like lower to mid shin. And then he holds that through the extension. And once he reaches knee height where Karlos Nassar transitioned under, Pizzolato keeps pushing with his legs. The bar maintains a little bit more distance from his body. And then around mid-thigh, that's when he starts to transition under the barbell. He ends in a much more dramatic position behind the bar, opened up at the hip. His weight shifted on his foot. He looks more like Suharevs here. And then he extends up. Very strong, very forceful pull under the barbell. He jumps into position. And then he catches the weight and secures it overhead for the gold medal. Now on to the clean and jerks. We have Ritvars Suharevs, who took 5th in the clean and jerk as well, but again took bronze in the total. He opened up with 190 kilos. And again, the cleans looked easy on this day. They didn't look as effortless as they used to, but the jerk was the thing that was off and was keeping him from placing a higher total. Good timing on the clean, great transition. He was just forward into that front leg. Looked like he really reaches his back leg. His hip gets out from underneath him a bit. He obviously looks disappointed. Like he knows something is off. So you can see again, very vertical in the start. Chest is up. He breaks the weight by pushing off of the floor. Gets a little bit of a shift with his hips, and then the knees start to track back. Delays it until the bar's around the level of the top of the knee sleeve, and then starts to transition under. So the power position, his shoulders are slightly behind the bar. He's on the balls of his feet. And then he extends up, right? And in the clean, you don't need quite as much of an extension and follow through with the arms as you do in the snatch. And then he starts to aggressively move his feet to get under. Great timing, great control of the barbell. Then he stands it up. He gets set for the dip and drive of the jerk. His hips stay back just slightly and his knees start to flex. He gets to a very strong jump position. His arms stay relaxed and he uses his legs to deliver the bar up. One thing to notice is that his feet stay relatively flat. He doesn't extend as much onto his toes. He just starts to split his feet. But he tends to get a lot of air with his front foot. So instead of keeping his front foot grounded while his back foot tracks back to contact the platform, his front foot really starts to pull up. And he still gets that 1-2 timing, but he creates so much space with the front foot. It's going to be hard to, one, get it in the right position, but time that bar dropping with the foot contacting the ground. So it looks like the bar just sits a little forward. He doesn't quite get his foot out as far as he would like. And all of the weight starts to move towards the front of his body. There's not a lot of pressure on that back leg to secure it. And then he's off balance as he starts to recover. So Nino Pizzolato took 4th, and he was in the B session. So Nino Pizzolato took 4th. We won't be looking at his lift. We're just going to skip to 2nd place. The person who took bronze in the clean and jerk was actually in the B session. And again, we're just looking at A session lifts. So Karlos Nassar had already made a 194 and 200 kilo clean and jerk, and he's going out for his third attempt at 206 kilos. This is 1 kilogram under Liu Jiajun's world record at 207. Again, this kid is only 16 years old. Very good timing, the clean, very strong stand up. Looks like the jerk was shot out of a cannon. Again, it was a slower dip, but the change of direction was impeccable. So we're going to look at this a little more closely and see what exactly is going on with that clean, because he starts in a more upright position, and then he tends to let his shoulders pull forward of the barbell. His hips move up at a pretty fast rate, and then by the time he's pulling the bar and actively moving it up, his upper body is about parallel with the floor. He gets his shins vertical, but he starts that transition right before he hits the knees. So he actually starts to scoop under the bar, gets really forward, and his weight tends to shift that way as his shoulders pulls back. And that's why he jumps forward, is because of the extension and that change in balance through the pull. He secures the bar, able to pop right out of the bottom of that clean. And then he gets set for the dip and drive of the jerk. There are a couple subtle differences here between him and Nino Pizzolato. The one thing we do see similar across the board is the rate at which the hips and the knees break and then descend. So the hips just move back slightly. The knees start to move forward, and that balances the system as the squat starts. And then once he gets down into the bottom, which is more of a quarter squat in this case, he's able to transition and drive the bar up. He's on a flat foot. His shoulders don't deviate from their starting position, and then he moves the bar directly upwards. He gets onto his toes far more than Ritvars Suharevs, who was almost flat-footed when he started the split. Feet stay a lot closer to the ground and contact the ground at almost the same time. Generally, you'll see the back foot connect and then the front foot step out. But in this case, it's about 50-50 in terms of balance and then also the time at which they contact the ground. The bar sits a little forward. His arms are straight, and generally you would want the bar further behind the ears. But he's able to get through it and then recover and then save the lift, which I think was an impeccable jerk. And again, his change of direction out of the bottom is so fast that it looks like it's shot out of a cannon. The coaches go wild, knowing that they just set their young lifter up for their best chance of success for getting gold in the total. And then here comes Nino Pizzolato, who it's taken 195 and 200, and he looks like he's on a mission for gold. Very aggressive lifter, very dynamic, very strong. A little crash, he had to walk the weight forward, but he's able to recover. Great dip and drive. Looks like his hands are a little off, something. The bar shifted slightly, but it was a fantastic lift nonetheless. And he knows he just won. He's enthused, right? He can't contain himself. Well, let's look at the differences in technique here, because there are some stark differences that we can see more so than we could in the snatch, given the limitations of the camera angle. So a few things to notice here is that he doesn't quite get as parallel to the ground with his upper body. He tends to be able to hold position off of the floor, and then he stands up with his shoulders and his hips moving at the same rate. But what he does do is once he reaches around the knee, he keeps that push going, and he keeps extending his legs. The bar stays forward of the legs with a little bit of space, and he keeps pushing until around, again, the middle of the thigh when he starts that transition. He gets into a fantastic spot, and it obviously works well for him, but it's incredible how much strength and patience it takes to extend your legs that long, to hold the same position and then initiate the transition. He gets into a great position to extend from. He goes up, he gets everything he needs out of his legs, and then he starts pulling under. He's not just pulling his hips and shoulders down, he's almost pulling himself through the barbell. So his hips start to pull forward. He gets as close as he can to the bar, and then he meets it in the bottom. Most people will dive their chest forward and try and pull down that way, but that's a very inefficient way to catch the bar, because the strongest position to squat from is one that's very vertical. Catches the weight, easily stands it up. It's just got such strong legs. And then as he initiates the dip and drive of the jerk, same story here. The hips stay back just slightly. The knees move forward. And then he doesn't reach quite as deep of a position as Karlos Nassar, but you can tell they're both very balanced and they're both holding position out of the bottom. He stays relatively flat-footed in the split, but he's able to delay the movement of the front foot. His back foot's almost in contact before it starts to move, and then he steps out and through the bar. So when he's on locked arms, that bar is in the perfect position. So we saw differences between Suharevs, Nassar, and Pizzolato. I think Pizzolato here demonstrated some of the better technique, but again, I mean, they're all at the highest level. It's balanced, the bar's behind his head. He goes to recover, and it's a made lift. And he knows that he just sealed his fate and took gold in the total. Well, that's a quick technique analysis of the 81 kilo session at the European Championships. Let me know if you guys liked it. Let me know what you think. If there's anything you'd like me to review later, if there's anything you'd like me to change, I appreciate every comment and ounce of support. I will catch you guys next time on another video on the Philosophical Weightlifting YouTube channel.